That's it. You get outside. That's the closest. Chop plus 2 1. They're like chambers of the bus. Who cares what that other stuff?
Getting some on this side of the pool that goes up to the commercial. Oh, without
Sparkle.
do you want to access this?
I saw it the other day. You guys do that in monastery. Spotted there's a shark falling around the scooter. My daughter's a lifeguard right now on that tower. Yeah. They'll swim out past the
We're able to reserve it.
Carolyn.
Because staff recognized that there might be issues with the restroom, and that's something that they're like should speak to. Okay, you go ahead. If you want to say that.
They'll send you, so they'll basically send you a video that'll shit up the IR too.
Okay.
So you can zoom in on the videos. You can see anything outside. We'll zoom out to exactly how many acres stuff it is. And then they'll tell you how many structures are out in front of it. This technology is now. Sure. You can tell what, this one's totally. These are all the fires that we do in the last few days. Shot on the state.
We had two big fires years ago, just missed the third one up in Canada, so.
My parents lost their home in that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I was living in San Diego, got back with 03, 07,
Okay.
and, I had to work in for, I left 2 months before the beach ended, we were there.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no. No, I'm still in touch with my phone coworker, fire chief, state doing a master class, evacuation, sort of meeting management, all that.
Safety officer, public information officer, and also out of the extraction engineer. People with the, to the more than the firefight. And all that throughout the state. So, 30, 20 to 30 days. to do it.
This is you.
Thank you. You're welcome to come through this way as well.
I have to sit in the audience.
Yeah. Yes,
I'm allowed to sit in the audience.
Yes, you're allowed to sit in the audience, but you can walk right through here if you want.
Sorry,
Oh,
it's extra time here.
You good?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Brian Pure.
Yeah.
And I'm the city attorney.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and if there's questions on procedure that come up during the meeting, that's what I
Okay,
okay, nice to meet you.
same.
All right, it appears that we're all here. I'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Board of Appeals to order at 2:44 PM.
We'll need a roll call.
Shelby?
Board Member Bjorklund?
Yes.
I apologize for my pronunciation. Board Member Lehman? Yes. Board Member Smith? Here. And Chair Jeselnick?
Yes.
All right, since you have a quorum, we can go ahead and open the meeting. I'd like to make a couple of introductory comments, if that's all right, Chair.
All right. First of all, I am the city attorney, Brian Pierrick, and I'm here to advise the board on matters of procedure. So if questions should come up either from the board members or from the public about a procedural issue, then that's my responsibility to assist you all with that. I did have a PowerPoint prepared with regards to the order for the hearing to help kind of guide us along here. If we could bring that up. All right. So this is separate from the PowerPoint that might be presented by others at this meeting. But I felt that it would be helpful to have some context to this. So if we can go to the first slide. This slide we're going to work through before we go to any of the other slides. And I believe you opened the meeting, Chair.
Yes.
So let's move on to the first item of business, which was that the city had received a request from Ms. Blevins to continue this hearing. I'm not sure if that request is still one that's being made. Perhaps Ms. Blevins, she's nodding her head, so I'm taking that as a yes. So what we will do is, in a minute, have Ms. Blevins speak to why she wants the hearing to be continued today, and then the city will have an opportunity to respond to the request. And then you would need to make a decision on the request for continuance. And as you see from this slide, there's three choices. One is that you grant the continuance, in which case we can all go home early, and we've set another date. Or the second option is you deny the continuance, and then we proceed with the hearing today. And the third choice is kind of a compromise between those two, which would be that you would deny the continuance and that you would consider a request from Ms. Blevins at the end of the hearing for additional time at a future meeting. So if at the end of the meeting, I would suggest that you ask Ms. Blevins, okay, now the hearing is proceeded and you know, both sides of both the city and Ms. Blevins have presented their evidence and their comments and what have you. And then if at the end of that, if she's still requesting additional time at a future meeting, then we can address it at that time. So those are your three choices. And then just to kind of finish the thought, if the motion to grant the continuance is approved, then we would need to set a date for another hearing date in the future. And then as the fourth step would be that if the motion to deny the request to continuance is approved, that meaning you choose option 2 or 3, then we will proceed with the hearing. And in that event, I'll have just a couple comments to make as to how the hearing should proceed. So what would be in order now is to call upon Ms. Blevins to say what she wishes to say in regards to a request for a continuance.
Could the appellant please come forward to make their request?
Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry, I feel like we put a lot of energy and time into being here this morning, and we were trying to do this before we did the walkthrough, so I don't want to waste anyone's time. For those of you that have joined the board, we had a hearing back in January, and we put a lot of time into it, and at the end, we felt that everyone hadn't been given enough time to really digest all of the information needed to make a big decision like this. This decision could actually force a shutdown of my business, which could create a lot of other implications. So it's definitely something that everyone involved in making a decision on needs to be fully aware of every part of this project. It's been in the works for 2 years. It's pretty long. There's a lot of technical information. So to kind of step back, we had our hearing in January. During that hearing, no vote was, and I forget the exact words, but no vote was taken. They postponed so that everyone had time to try to come up with a resolution and to give everyone more time to present their cases. So we had a meeting with city staff, Jermel, Chief Cooper, Anna, myself, my landlord, to see if we could discuss everything that had happened in that hearing and come up with a resolution. And during that meeting, I provided the staff with an architectural drawing and an occupancy certification of my space that basically conveyed that we felt the building code did not require, did not trigger a change of use, and therefore did not require sprinklers or construction of a new bathroom. Chief Cooper conveyed to me, he asked me if I would work on getting that stamped by a licensed California architect to submit it to him, but that in his words, he said it looked good. So I had hope that we were on the same page. We left that meeting, and I said, yes, I'll happily pay to have an architect stamp this information and certify it. So I left that meeting and I went and hired an architect, and we went through the entire project, came to the same conclusions. He certified and stamped those documents. I sent a follow-up email to the entire team, everyone involved, including Brandon, the city manager. Brian, I think you're the only one I don't include, so I hope they copy you on the emails. And I sent it February 28th, I believe, and it was a recap of everything that had happened during our meeting because it hadn't been recorded, and I wanted to preserve what we had all discussed in that meeting. I felt it was very important. And so I also advised the team at that time that my architect that I'd hired was going to be sending over those certified architect stamp drawings. He sent them over on February 28th, and from that point until today, every week, himself or I have followed up with everyone on that team asking for any feedback, any input. At that point, I thought we were still in a collaborative state of trying to work through this, but we just got crickets. No one returned our emails, no one returned our calls. Both of us tag teamed everyone. I think from the end of February till now, we received one response from Anna, and it was, I'm sorry, I've been sick or out of town, and I'll follow up with you by the end of the week. And that week came and went. So I started wondering what was going on because I think that I've presented a case to them that supported my position, but we couldn't get anyone to respond. And so much time was going by that I got nervous because it just seemed odd that no one was returning my calls. Someone then came to me and suggested that I file a Freedom of Information Act so that I could try to figure out what the city was working on, since we couldn't get anyone to talk to us. So that's what I did. It took them more than 10 days to get me the documents. It took them 20 days. And when I did get those documents, at that point, I realized that the building department and the fire department were escalating things to try to make a case opposite of what we had discussed in that meeting. So I had my architect stamp drawings that I felt were legally supportive of my position, but I wanted to make sure. So I did a bunch of research and reached out and found two of the highest rated California fire chiefs that are retired that actually teach code, are part of writing code for the state. You'll see their resumes in my packet. But this is all they do. They've both been state fire marshals, and they're part of an amazing board, which, by the way, if anyone ever needs one, they're just amazing. I'll vouch for just how great these guys are, but they live and breathe this stuff, and they know it inside and out. And they did a review of my architect's stamp drawings and came to the same independent decisions that his analysis was correct, that based on the California Building Code, there is no change of use that will trigger fire sprinklers or constructing a new bathroom. There's a very detailed report from them in here. It explains it. I appreciate this is very complicated. I will say one of my concerns about the new board, the other reason I'm asking for a continuance is, one, I would like everyone to have time to review this. Two, a lot of this data, and the reason why it took so long is I just got the information back from my consultants just this past week because I didn't get the Freedom of Information documents. And it's just very cutting it close to this hearing. So I knew that when I got this packet over that everyone would need enough time to, one, digest it, but the city needs time to actually review it as well, because there's a lot of information in here that they hadn't seen before I gave them this packet. And I think it's fair to them as well to have the opportunity to review this and to have a way to respond. So that's one part of why I'm asking for this. The other part is because this was so short notice and because I had to jump through hoops to get ready for this, both of the consultants that I have paid, the expert witnesses, could not be here today because they are at another hearing with another project up in Sonoma. And so they both wanted to be here to support me in this meeting. And given that this is such a big project and they're expert witnesses, I really want them to be here so they can answer all of your questions, because you should have lots of questions and they have lots of answers. And given that they're experts, I think that'd be important. And then finally,
I'll just ask you to try to wrap up, because I think we've got a couple of reasons for your request, and we'll consider that.
I'll just keep going. And just some questions about the board, but that's the main thing, so.
Okay.
We good?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And now it would be an opportunity for the city to address the points that have been made by Ms. Blevins.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. We had a chance to hear from the appellant, so we'll take a minute to hear from the city.
Afternoon, Chair, Board. I'm Jermel Laurie, building official for the city. I'm requesting that you choose option 2 or 3. I've read all of the information that was provided by the appellant. I believe all the relevant information will be addressed in my presentation, and I believe my presentation has been a little bit more refined to be more digestible and understandable and clear. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Okay, we'll bring it back to our board. I think we basically have heard from the appellant and from the city in response. Just to say it as succinctly as possible, the appellant is asking for a continuance because of new information that has just come to light over the past several days that was only provided to the board in some cases this morning around 9 a.m. And provided to the city at the same time. And also because some folks that she's hired as consultants on her behalf were not able to be at this hearing today. So is there thoughts from the board?
Yes, I feel we need to deny the continuance and move forward with the hearing. I think option 3 is where I'm leaning right now. At the end of the hearing, if we need to continue and do a future meeting, that's great, but I think we have a lot of information to deliberate today and go forward with. So that would be my thoughts.
Hi. I want to make note that we got a lot of this information several days ago, or actually almost a week ago, and I've spent hours, really hours, looking at my computer screen to get abreast of all the information, and I'd like to look at number 3, which would be to deny the continuance and consider requests from the appellant at the end of the hearing for additional time at a future meeting, which would enable her to bring in her other 2 people representing the fire and the architect involved, and see if that changes anyone's mind about this. But basically, I'm not adverse to doing it under option 2, option 3. And I would also suggest that what we were given today, that's here, is information that we have already read through today, or I certainly have when I got it early this morning. So we're not without knowledge of the situation, even though we're new on the board. So, thanks.
I guess I have a question about what the advantage is to hear everything and then take option 3 and then have another meeting with her experts. Seems to me that I'd want to have everyone here at the same time so that she can fully present her case along with the city. So I'd go for option 1, although if somebody can tell me why option 3 doesn't just continue something, which then we would have to have another meeting to make a decision, why that's preferable.
That sounds like a procedure question to me.
Okay, good.
So I'd be glad to.
Good.
I'm not shy, I'll be glad to jump on that one. You make a good point. The reason for option 3 is so everybody's been assembled today. You're all here. You can see there's a number of folks in the audience, and some of those are available to speak today. This is fairly common, actually, in the process of government, that you do what you can at the time with who's available, and then if there's a need for some further hearing, for additional information to be presented, then you, like option 3 says, you set another hearing. Now, that doesn't mean that at that future hearing, you start all over again and hear everything twice. You would, basically at the end of the meeting, as I've suggested, inquire of Ms. Blevins if she still feels the need for continuance to present consultants or present documents. Then you could, in your discretion, set that hearing. But that hearing would be limited to that additional information that would be presented to for example, the 2 consultants if they want to be here. And by the way, individuals don't need to be here in person. This is a Zoom meeting, is that right? Okay, so they could have today, for example, attended by Zoom, unless that conflicts with their schedule. But nonetheless, they would not have to be here in person. That's one of the advantages that we have with the Zoom format. So to get to your point, which as I said, I think is a good one, you would need to fashion at the end of the hearing, if your inclination is to set a future hearing, what that future hearing is going to include and what it's not going to include. And what it would not include is a repeat of everything you hear today. So if there's some new information or consultants speak on behalf of Ms. Blevins, then obviously the city would have an opportunity to respond to what those consultants say. But the benefit of option 3 would be, to answer your question, that you can get something done today.
So I'll just speak to what I'm hearing from my fellow board members, which I think is that there has been a lot of effort put into assembling here today. We have members of the public who may not have been here at the first hearing. We are already operating under a continuance of a first meeting, although new information has come to light and there are new board members. So I would entertain a motion from any board member for.
Before you make that, you just made a comment that I think is a good one and I need to respond to it, which is that first hearing had 2 members of the board at that time, and you have a different composition of the board now with the 4 of you. And so this is being considered as a de novo hearing, and what that means is as of the beginning. So what happened back in January is not pertinent to the meeting today. Factually, you're right, it was continued over, but due to the new composition, we're back in the first inning here. And I used a lot of baseball metaphors, so I apologize for that.
Thank you.
So you're right, you were asking for a motion.
So, Chairman, I would like to make a motion to deny the continuance and consider request from the appellant at the end of the hearing for additional time at a future meeting.
I would like to echo that, to deny, to use option number 3 under number 2, to deny the continuance and consider requests from the appellant at the end of the hearing for additional time at a future meeting.
So you're seconding the motion?
Yes, I am.
You can discuss
Yeah, we have
further
a
if you
first
wish.
and a second. I think my offer as a friendly amendment to that would be that we just clarify the terms of what our endpoint is today. Because I think we should probably do that without just continuing the hearing without a sort of a plan for either a time limit or are we planning to hear the presentations, the public comment, and then create a stop point. I think I'd like to propose that we do that in advance as opposed to continuing without a plan.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
But
Brian.
Chair, I do have some slides that you're going to, well, you've got a motion. My recommendation is that if there's not further discussion on the motion, you take a vote on it. So if you agree, then we can have the council poll.
Carolyn, you.
I guess I'd like to know that, I'd like to find out whether there would be a decision made at the end of this meeting, given the both sides having presented their arguments, one way or the other. Or the whole fact of the request for continuance, it sounds like nothing would be decided.
So the motion that's on the table right now is to deny a continuance, meaning we will move forward with this hearing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian.
Yes.
What happens throughout this hearing isn't set yet. There could be future motions to discuss the appellant's request. That's how the meeting will continue. All that we're talking about right now is whether the meeting will continue. This hearing will continue. We can't set the format of this meeting until we decide whether we're going to have the meeting. That's how I interpret the motion that's on the table right now.
And so you have the same opinion?
I have nothing to add. I think it's been discussed. If you're ready for a vote,
Okay.
Shelby will.
I guess I'll go for 3
Go ahead,
then.
you can
Okay.
ask for a vote.
Board Member Bjorklund?
I guess I go for 3.
Yes. Board Member Lehman?
Yes, I would vote for number 3 as well.
Board Member Schmidt?
Yes.
And Chair Jeselnick?
No.
Motion passes.
All right, so the motion passes 3-1. So I will now go to the balance of the procedural slides, if you will. Can we get the next page? By the way, there are copies of this PowerPoint, if the public wishes. I mean, it's up on the screen, clearly, but if you want to have a hard copy, there's some on the table there. So I'm not going to just read to you from this slide. I'll just try to hit the high points. So you get a presentation from staff, then questions to staff from the board. You open the public hearing. Appellant makes a presentation. As I note in the slide, it's your rules say 5 minutes, but my recommendation is that you ask Ms. Blevins for a time estimate when it becomes her turn. So she should indicate to you how long she thinks she's going to need to make her presentation. And that would include, if there are others here, that Ms. Blevins wishes to participate in that presentation, that total presentation time should be requested and what her estimate is. Then after the appellant presents their case, then there'd be public comment. The standard is three minutes. And then the appellant has a chance to make further comments at that point. And then staff has time to respond. Then I would close the public hearing, and then the board would deliberate. And the next slide is one, I think it's helpful as you go through the process to have some kind of understanding of what your options are. And so let's go to the next slide. So these are the options, similar to what we just went through with the continuance, where there were options that were presented to you. You could, under option one, decide to set a future date, if Ms. Blevins requested and you feel that that's what should be done. Then you can set a further date for that, and I'm not going to read the entire option here, but you can see it there on the board. We'll come back to this at the end of the meeting so that it'll kind of be a refresher as to what the options are, but I thought it'd be helpful to give you a forecast of kind of, you know, what the options would be at the end of the hearing. A second option would be to approve the resolution to deny the appeal. And there is a resolution in your packet, which is attachment 1. And then the third would be to consider an alternative resolution. If the board felt that there was something that you wanted to do that's different than number 2, and then this option would, you could give direction to staff and say, this is what we want to do. And then staff can take that direction and return to you at a future meeting with that resolution. And then you'd have a chance to have a conversation about the resolution. It would be put into the agenda packet in advance of your meeting to see that it captured the points that you raised. So I just call this the alternative resolution. It's not been drafted yet, of course, because, you know, you would need to give direction as to what you want to include in it. But what I don't want you to feel is that you have to adopt resolution number 1 or nothing. You do have a choice if you felt that there was something different that you wanted to do, and that's kind of what option 3 does. Okay, I believe that's the end of my slides, and you can take those down. Where we are in the process now is step 5. And that would be for the city staff to make a presentation, but perhaps before they start, does the board have any questions about the procedures as I've outlined them? Okay. All right, then this would be the chance for staff to make a presentation.
May we have the Chief Building Official, Laurie, please come forward?
Hello again, board. Okay, I'll start by making sure the clicker works. Okay. I just wanted to go over the significant hearing dates again. The notice violation was originally issued on November 13th, 2025. The appeal was filed November 20th. The first public hearing, as it was already mentioned, was January 16th, and we are here again today. Start with the background of how this all started. There were plumbing and electrical permits issued on February 13th, 2024 under the direction of the then Planning and Building Director. The scope of work stated that it was existing retail cabinets were to be replaced with cabinets for a portable coffee bar and equipment and extend existing water sewage connections from previous tenants. The plans were not stamped by a licensed architect. No change of use or occupancy was indicated in the application or on the plans. Work was proposed under the ancillary use to serve the customers of the bike shop. And just so you're aware, I believe I have it covered in another slide, but ancillary use is no more than 10% of the floor area of the space. This is the cover sheet of the plans, just for you to view and confirm that none of the information that I just addressed was on those plans. Like any other commercial project, there were 20% of construction valuation upgrades required. I do want to point out on this cover sheet, And the next sheet, there are no seats identified on either plan. There was also a plumbing plan that was identical to this one with the plumbing lines on it. Again, there was no seating identified on the plan at all. At this point, under this permit, there was no fire sprinkler requirement. There was no restroom requirement. This is a picture, and the only picture I could find that represents, and please don't let the dogs distract you, but the picture of the space itself is from the approximate time of the final inspection from the building inspector. And at the same time, the planner and the building inspector were at the shop, and the appellant stated in some of her submission material that the building inspector said everything was code compliant. In this picture, I just want to point out there are no tables or chairs to speak of. On the picture on your right, it appears that there are no couches installed either, and that the bicycles and merchandise on the shelves, it appears to be still a mercantile occupancy. Planning did, however, have an issue at this time during the final inspection on August 26th, 2024, essentially that the use may have gone beyond the ancillary use, and the appellant was directed to come back to Planning Commission for a revised use permit. So on December 11th, 2024, the Planning Commission approved the use permit for specialty use. I believe the exact term is specialty restaurant. That approval was done on the consent agenda. For anybody that doesn't know, that means there was no discussion about it. And it was not pulled for discussion during that time, during the vote, to have any discussion about it. At that time, building department was not notified about the change of use and occupancy, and since there was no presentation, there was nothing during the meeting to identify a change of use and occupancy. So I want to go through some definitions so we're clear on the occupancy groups. A mercantile group, what the space was before, is in our specific case, is retail or wholesale sales stores or sales rooms. This was the space of the bike shop prior to any changes. This is a prime example of a mercantile use. I wanted to show again and just reiterate that this was the space from a building inspection standpoint. There are no tables, no chairs. It appears that it could still reasonably be identified as a mercantile use. I've only got this up to identify Assembly Group A2 as a restaurant or cafeteria serving food, intended for food or drink consumption. If the occupant load is less than 50 persons, it's considered a B occupancy. This is, as everybody who attended the site visit today, is how the space currently looks. And in my estimation, I consider this a B occupancy. The appellant also provided materials specifically identifying accessory use, but I felt compelled, since this was not included in the material, California Building Code Section 508.2.3. 508 was addressed, but the specific highlighted part was left out, specifically identifying that aggregate accessory occupancy shall not occupy more than 10% of the floor area of the story in which they are located. So the previous occupancy was a mercantile occupancy. the occupancy load calculations or table in the building code. Once you've done that calculation, allowed for a maximum occupant load of 24. Under the current business occupancy classification, the occupant load is now 47 people max. So this means there's been a change of use and occupancy, and it also means there's an increased occupant load and an intensification of use. So regarding the restroom requirement, the California Plumbing Code requires that all the requirements for sanitary facilities be applied to changes of occupancy or type in an existing building, resulting in an increased occupant load. Reinforced by the municipal code, which states that at least one restroom shall be available, per highlighted, on the same property on which the use is located. This does not allow anyone in a wheelchair to have to go across the street by the estimation of around 200 feet away and cross the street twice to get to a restroom. Now we're going to get into the fire sprinkler requirement, and this gets quite complicated from an explanation point of view. So please bear with me. I'm going to describe this as best that I can in a way that you'll understand. So the fire code states a change of occupancy shall not be made unless the use or occupancy is made to comply with the requirements of this code and the California existing building code. I'll stop here just to explain that there are multiple parts of Title 24 which consist of the entire building code. One section is the existing building code. One section is the building code. These are differentiated, separate sections. You'll need to be aware of this as I move along in the next few slides. I'll go back and just to let you know, there's an exception to the to this code where approved by the fire code official. But I did want to point out that the fire code official denied the exception to this code. It is included in the agenda packet. It is attachment number 10, dated 6/24 of this year. So now we'll get into the existing building code, section 1011. And it states the provisions of this code shall apply to buildings or portions thereof undergoing a change of occupancy classification. Just keep this in mind, please. And then it also requires, requires a fire sprinkler system based on the new occupancy in accordance with Chapter 9 of the building code. Installation of the automatic sprinkler system required within the change of occupancy and areas of the building not separated by a firewall from the change of occupancy. I will point out that there are no firewalls separating the other occupancies in the building. And by all estimations, it would probably cost as much as installing a fire sprinkler system to actually install a firewall to separate various occupancies and reduce the sprinkler area. So I need to point out that section 903 of the building code and the fire code are essentially identical. And that portions of a building that undergo change of use and occupancy are essentially treated as new buildings under the code. The reason I point out that they're treated as new buildings is because when you go to these sections in the code, it only identifies new construction. But as section 1011 pointed to chapter 9 of the building code, the way that our municipal code has amended the fire code, which essentially also amends the building code in the same section. The municipal code states, and this is the amendment, which is more restrictive, not less restrictive than the California Fire Code. It states this section supersedes the square footage limitations of all subsections within 903.2. The exceptions to this municipal code are structures not classified as Group R occupancies and not more than 500 square feet in total area. So essentially, it's the only exception is if you're not an R occupancy and you are not more than 500 square feet. If memory serves me, I believe the space is 1,425 square feet, obviously well over the 500 square feet. So in summary, there's a change of use and occupancy over 500 square feet. The occupant's load is increased, and an accessible restroom is required within the space, and fire sprinklers are required. The ICC code determination is consistent with the fire and building code officials' determination. The state fire marshal's office supports the determination. Both of those attachments are also within the packet, and the fire and building code officials agree on this determination. Staff recommends the Board of Appeals adopt the resolution, finding the denial of the appeal is not subject to CEQA guidelines, denying the appeal filed by Jennifer Blevins, and upholding the building official's requirement to construct a public restroom within the specialty restaurant and install a fire sprinkler system in the space. I'd recommend, should the space come into compliance within with the sprinkler and restroom requirements, a completed owner authorization form shall be required to be submitted to the building department within 15 calendar days to indicate and confirm an intent to install acquire the permits. Complete application permit application submittal shall be required to be submitted within 60 calendar days. Before I go to questions, I'd like to bring up Fire Chief Cooper in case he has any additional things he'd like to mention.
Thank you. Good afternoon, board, chair, and members of staff and community. My name is Justin Cooper. I am the Fire Marshal Division Chief in charge of our Fire Prevention Division for our area here. As the authority having jurisdiction, you heard from Jermel, our head building official, that there has definitely been a change of occupancy use, which would trigger the sprinkler requirements. Once we did receive the appellate's documentation of the floor layout, I did get in touch with the State Fire Marshal's office and actually asked for a code interpretation, which you will obviously see in your packet from when they responded back. And what they looked at in that was, does a change of occupancy use from a mercantile business to a B business occupancy be required to follow the fire code? And the State Fire Marshal's office came back saying, yes, they are required to follow the fire code. Obviously, the change of use, along with the ordinance that the city of Carmel-by-the-Sea here has adopted with the 500 square foot provisions, trigger the fire sprinkler requirements. So therefore, the business would have to come into compliance with fire sprinklers based upon the change of occupancy and change of use. You'll see my denial letter in there of the exemption based upon several factors that I looked at. Part of that is also increased occupant load. The exemption specifically applies only if it is less than the prior occupancy. So if the fire hazard is less than the prior occupancy, that exemption could apply. As the authority having jurisdiction, as the fire marshal, I have the ability to deny that based upon additional occupant load into the structure, additional electrical loading into the structure with espresso machines and so forth, that actually increases the hazard occupancy. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer, but thank you very much.
Do we have any questions from board members of staff at this time?
I have a question. How many businesses have installed fire sprinkler systems since you created the new ordinance?
I couldn't give you an exact number, but when there is a occupancy change, typically what would happen is that building plan application would be submitted and architectural plans would be submitted. And all that information would be provided to the building department. Building and fire would make the determination during plan check of whether fire sprinklers are required at that time.
Do you have a guesstimate or how many businesses have installed fire system? Just a guess.
Well, overall, I couldn't even begin to give you a guess. I could verify that there are several currently that in let's say in the past year, there are at least 2 or 3 businesses that have installed fire sprinkler systems on their buildings at significant cost, over $500,000, to comply with the code.
Without being required to?
No, nobody's voluntarily, and as far as I know, installed fire sprinklers. Did you have something to add?
Yeah, I mean, I could say as the fire marshal and division chief in charge of our fire prevention division over the last year, we've, in conjunction of how many businesses, sprinkler systems going in, we do see plans come across our desk typically every couple of weeks for commercial occupancy, more so in the residential realm because people are doing expansions on their houses, which also triggers sprinkler requirements if they go over certain square footages. So these codes have been around for a very long time to protect our downtown area and protect the businesses and infrastructure. As you know, we already have very narrow windows with buildings close to each other, which promote potential hazards if we do get a fire in a building also.
Any other questions at this time?
I have one for Fireman Cooper. Can you put a number on how many of these, well, let's say mandatory that have been done or are in the process of putting in fire sprinkler systems?
So every time we have a change in occupancy, whether it's a hotel going to residential units or a business coming in that changes the occupancy of the classification for that space, they're required to put sprinklers in. I've probably done, since I've been in the fire prevention division in the last year, probably 10 different sprinklers just here in the city of Carmel on commercial businesses, and have looked at sprinklers that are required per code to go in, that we've required them to go in as the law states. We have had in Monterey a tenant put a sprinkler system in because he wanted to protect the building to make it more safe, but that was optional on him. That was, he didn't have a change of use or change of occupancy. In Monterey and Pacific Grove and Sand City, we have sprinkler systems going in all the time. I get multiple plan review checks that come in through my office. We do send a lot of those out to get third-party checked to verify that they also meet the code of the requirements for sprinklers to go in the occupancy, and those get installed. So you look at every single store from a Target to a small mom and pop store that has gone in and has changed the occupancy, it triggers sprinkler requirements. And then a sprinkler company that's licensed to install life safety equipment would come in, submit those plans to our office, then we review them, make sure that they meet the California Fire Code requirements, and then those get installed. And then we do the follow-up checks, which is all the inspections for both what's called a rough and a final, to make sure that it is all in correctly, because the worst thing that we want to do is not have a sprinkler system go in and there be a fatality inside the structure. And so for me, it's pretty clear that the code's requiring fire sprinklers, and how could you go against the code what happens if there is a fire in that building, what happens if we do have loss of life or significant property damage.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
I do have one more question for Jamel. I believe you mentioned at a cost of about $500,000. I'm a builder myself, and in a 3-bedroom house plus an ADU, we don't get anywhere near that number.
Well, it was a commercial project, and it was a conversion from, I think, an existing art gallery was converted into a restaurant. And, the space for the restaurant wasn't that big. But just similar to many of the commercial properties in town, there were infrastructure challenges, and the property owner actually, to my understanding, the pressure at the property line was not sufficient. Therefore, the property owner was tasked and had to hire a contractor to actually go down a block or two to tap into another line that actually provided the adequate water to supply the sprinkler system.
Right, but that was extraordinary. We wouldn't be looking at that kind of number for a simple space.
I couldn't give a clear answer on
Yeah,
that.
I'm not
It's all based on CalAm's infrastructure, and there's a number of factors to consider there. Unfortunately, this particular property owner had very bad luck. I'll just put it that way.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. I did just also want to clarify as far as changing occupancies. Even if a hotel, which is an R1 occupancy, was converted into apartment units, which are R2s, there is no occupancy change there. There's only an occupancy classification change, but that occupancy classification change also requires that the entire building have fire sprinklers installed in it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just have one question, which is regarding you described the change in occupancy classification based on the last submitted plans from the appellant and the physical conditions of the site. So can you confirm for us what that is based on your review of those plans?
I'm sorry, Chair.
The current occupancy classification of the space based on your review of the plans and of the space.
So the architecturally the plans that have the architect stamp that the appellant submitted correctly identifies the current space in question as a B occupancy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, sorry, now I have a question. Prior to it being stamped B occupancy, was it an M mercantile prior to that stamping? Or was it always
by the definition of its use as a bike shop, it was classified
mercantile.
as a mercantile, yes.
Got it.
So if there's no more questions, your next step would be to open the public hearing and request that assuming Ms. Blevins wants to go first, or whenever she wishes to speak, to provide you with an estimate of how much time she's going to need.
Great, thanks, Jamel. We'll go ahead and open the public comment for the hearing. I'd invite the appellant to come forward, and if you could please give us an estimate about how much time you'd like to have, including any time you'd like to have at the end of the rest of the public comment.
I'd like to keep y'all here all day. I've spent 2 years on this, so we could go on for hours on this. I would personally like to go through each of the slides that Jamel just went through so that I can explain to you a different perspective on each of those. I think it'd be very helpful for you to understand. And then I can go through the packet of information that we provided, which is completely opposite of the packet you got a week ago from the board. So at a minimum, for me, I know David, my architect, is going to need 5 to 10 minutes to go through a bit of information with you guys. I can talk forever, so you have to keep me on a limit, but I'd say 20 or 30 minutes to go through this at a detailed level for everyone to kind of explain this.
I'll consider your request, and I'll grant 15 minutes for your presentation and for your architect.
For each of us or for combined?
Combined.
Combined, okay. So so you want me to go now?
Please.
Can you pull those slides back up, please? So I think the number one thing I want to start with here is that too much of the information that's being shared here, there's a major confusion between what should be in the planning department versus the building department. Everyone that's here today is to decide a very narrow scope for the building department. So some of the stuff that was covered in these slides is not stuff that we should even be reviewing in this meeting today, because it's not relative to this notice of violation and the California Building Code. Furthermore, before we even start going into the slides, I did want to just get this on the record that the California Building Code, the reason for this Board of Appeals is it is to be made up of professionals from the community that are licensed and certified and that understand code. That's the reason you have this board, is so that if someone like Jermel or Chief Cooper misinterprets or misapplies the code, that you have the expertise to go back and read that code, understand it, and make a decision around the code. This isn't about emotional feelings. This isn't about how much it's going to cost us. It isn't about exceptions. It's about code interpretation. And so I consider this board to be extremely important because, probably more so than any board in Carmel, no one's gone in front of this board in a long time. It's a technical board. So I just want to make sure I explain that because it's very important about the code. I do have one more thing I want to put on there very quickly. And Gail, I just want to point this out so it's on the record. When we first opened in 2018, we applied for a conditional use permit during that time so that we could rent bikes. Marnie and the city council, Marnie and the planning department put together a 47-page document highly approving and recommending to approve allowing our bike shop to rent bikes. We went in front of the planning department. There were 4 board members. We were short one. And we had the chair of the board at the time and the second voted to approve us. Gail and one other person on the board denied our application at that time, stating that, if I remember correctly, that they didn't feel Carmel was a safe place for bikes. And it was not a code-based decision. It was, I just feel it's not safe for people on bikes. And I remember it because it traumatized me, being a biker and opening a business in this town that obviously just won Business of the Year. We love bikes. That very next week, the city attorney got involved, the mayor and the city council, and unanimously reversed that decision because we were denied that permit that night. I only point that out because there is a slight conflict, Gail, and please, there's nothing personal, but the fact that this happened previously in the past, and it was based on an interpretation that was in fact code-based, does concern me because it is so technical for this role. You may not like my business, you may not like me, but I want to make sure that we're all fact-based in what we're doing here today. The main thing I want to point out is, and then we'll jump into the slides, is your only job here today over everything. There's going to be a lot of data thrown at you, and it's complicated. I have to go and review it 500 times. I have to call experts. I have to go through it. We have to look at this information. Your job here today is to determine if a change of occupancy occurred. That's it. It is very simple. Did a change of occupancy occur? Based on the California Building Code, based on the California existing building code, it is very clear that a change of occupancy did not occur. And we have 3 professionals. We have a licensed architect that has put their license on the line and stamped drawings. We have 2 retired state fire marshals with credentials, all stating no change of occupancy occurred. They've reviewed all of the plans, they've reviewed all of the drawings, their conclusions are all independent, and they are highly regarded professional experts in their fields. So, code can be misinterpreted, code can be misapplied. It happens all the time. This is a very unique project compared to other projects, and as you guys can appreciate, every project has different requirements, different variables that affect how the code is applied. So for 8 years, our shop has been a mercantile business. It is still a mercantile business. So there's some confusion about that, and that's where I want my experts to stand in front of you and have that conversation so they can go through it. But I'd like to walk through these slides really quickly. And I want to make sure I don't eat up all the time since we've got limited time, because what he has to say is more important than what I have to say. So I want to make sure you guys don't let me run over. So if it's 15 minutes, I might want to let him jump up and I will just leave everything I want to go through on these slides.
Where are we at?
Pardon me?
I thought it was a total of 15.
Yes.
So I got 5 more minutes, 5.5 minutes. So I'd rather give that to David because he's going to need 5 to 10 minutes to go through his stuff, and I'll just have to postpone anything I want to go through to clarify some inaccuracies that were communicated in those slides.
Okay, we'll hear from your architect.
Hello, how's it going? Thanks for having me. My name is Dave Beecham. I'm with Fuse Architects. I'm here today to represent Fuse Architects and to represent Mad Dog and Englishman. We have provided an occupancy study, which is in a drawing format that we'll look at in the end. But before we get to that, I want to go over an occupancy analysis summary that was done. And the big thing that we're talking about today is there a change of occupancy? And based upon our analysis, there is no change of occupancy. So let's look at the code. So I want to talk about occupancy classification, and then there's accessory occupancy classification. The occupancy classification is basically the main use, the main function of the space. Let's read the line. Occupancy classification is a formal designation of the primary purpose of the building, structure, or portion thereof. Portion thereof belongs to the space in question. Mad Dogs and Englishmen has always been M Mercantile Group since 2018. Their retail sales, they sell bikes, they sell merchandise, amongst other things. Why is it not going? Is it possible to go to the next slide? Is it? There we go. Thank you. Okay. Accessory occupancies are allowed. These accessory occupancies, they're ancillary to the main occupancy being M Mercantile of the building or the portion thereof. Again, portion thereof. Next slide, please. Okay, occupancy classification and use. Here we can see all of the accessory occupancies within the space. 2 of these have always been within the space. Business Group B, which includes the office in the back and also the back counter. We have Storage Group S, which is a storage space that we walked in that has the prep sink and also the warming refrigerators. And then I think the big thing in question here is the small assembly spaces. So when there was a conditional use permit, which is zoning, not building code, we have to categorize that somehow. And because a coffee bar was allowed, it triggers a change under accessory use. Now that use, there's customers that come in and out of the door. There's a higher density of people. What this code says right here is a room or space used for assembly purposes with an occupant load of less than 50 people and accessory to another occupancy shall be classified as a Group B occupancy or as part of that occupancy. A part of that occupancy is type M. You're going to see on this slide, next slide, you're going to see a floor plan demonstrating that the overall space is less than 50 people of the small assembly space. In addition, a room or space used for assembly purposes that is less than 750 square feet in an area and accessory to another occupancy being type M, shall be classified as Group B occupancy, not M, or as a part of that occupancy. So a part of that occupancy is Group M. Next slide, please. Here you can see the floor plan that we all visited earlier. You can see the layout. There are overlays on this floor plan. The small assembly space is green. That space holds an occupant load of less than 50 people, and it's less than 750 square feet. What you see in brown there is the B accessory occupancy for business. You can see the back bar behind the coffee bar as well as the office. And then you see the storage on the side. So based upon our overall analysis of Mad Dog and Englishman being an M occupancy classification, and then there's accessory occupancies underneath that, and based upon the supporting code, there is no change in occupancy. That's our analysis, and we request that this appeal be granted.
Are there any questions from the board for the appellant or the appellant's architect?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, we'll move to, thank you both very much. We'll move to the public comment for the hearing. I would like to invite anybody here to speak to this topic to come forward and introduce yourself. We'll be limiting the comments for each speaker to 3 minutes or less. Please be mindful of what's been said before you in order, and keep in mind to be as succinct and clear as possible. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Wasim Al-Sharani. I'm next door to the coffee shop. I have the grill. My concern is with them is the restroom. We have guests from theirs, guests and other guests from everywhere come in, walk into the bathrooms and use the bathroom on a daily basis. And since the coffee shop opened, they have more increase. People walk into our door using the bathroom. And you try to explain for them. There is a public bathroom on the corner or in the plaza or anything. People walk into the restaurant to use the bathroom. They don't want to listen to anybody. They don't want to talk to anybody. They want to just jam to the bathroom. And when they do that, they occupy the bathroom for a period of time, which is with our seat, we have a 49 seat. You know, our guests, our paying customer, they cannot use the bathroom at the time, and the line will backed up on us. Plus, another issue we have with, since the coffee shop opened, is the garbage. I send an email with a bunch of picture and proof the garbage situation is going out of hand. This will add more rodent infestation in our building or next door. I filed a complaint in November last year. Nothing happened. I went back to the city checking what's happening, and they said it's in the process. So I filed a complaint last week, beginning of this week, was approved of my previous complaint, was the garbage, was the proof of their guests using my bathroom in my own things. It's unfortunately, I wish them the best, believe me, I am not against them, but the only thing we need to control the bathroom situation and the garbage situation. You know, I want to be a good neighbor, but it's going out of hand. And with the city have all the proof and the emails, I think they should make a decision on it as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Steve Dallas, former mayor, and I was the one that approved the bicycle shop downstairs, and I'm very proud of approving that first bicycle shop in the city of Carmel. And I'm the first one to put not all of you, but to put this board together, and that's why I'm here today. I'm not speaking on for or against the project. I do want to commend Brian, what he stated. When a public hearing is a public hearing, whether you have testimony from either side and they're not available to show up, we as a city have the ability, and I'm sure there's people on this phone conversation now that's watching this video, can clearly call in from anywhere in the world. And I think it's most important, whether they had 2 people or 5 people that wanted to testify, to make a 5-minute phone call. As Brian stated, that's what that is for. And I think it's crucial that you have all of you here, you have the general public, you have the appellant, the city here. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. There was new documentation that was sent in. I read it also. There's no excuse that a person could not call in a timely manner. I would like to have you pull up, if you don't mind, the floor plan that the appellant architect showed a second ago. If you don't mind. Sorry. If you could hold my time for a second. 1:30. So, you know, when this, not this project, but I'm going to say when we approve the bike shop downstairs, it's a bike shop, okay? I see one bike. And this is what's frustrating to me. A bike shop is a bike shop. A coffee shop is a coffee shop. Everybody knows this is a coffee shop, period. It's not a bike shop as what was presented earlier today by staff. Staff showed a very minuscule area, no seats, nothing, blah, blah, blah. I think one of the biggest things that you have to look at, they have experts, the city has experts with your fire chief. I think one of the biggest experts is the state. The letter from the state, and I think Brian needs to address this very, very clearly. It supersedes her side, it supersedes the chief's side. It supersedes everything. You cannot supersede the state, period. We as a city cannot supersede, or the city is liable. And I think Brian will explain this to you. I'm sure he will. I'm sure he's done his homework on this. And I do not want to see this city get sued by other lawyers that will come down to the city. This is a state issue right now, what everybody is watching, all 4 of you currently, I can promise you. And I'm sure there's people on this phone call. And that's all I want to say. I'm not for, I'm not against, but I just want you to put that in mind of what supersedes all of our codes, and the state fire marshal got involved. And I think that is key. But everybody to date says it's a coffee shop. There's not one bike there compared to what the first thing that was approved. And there's no ADA bathroom on that plan. This is very similar to what has happened at Afina when we approved it years ago when I was on the planning commission. We have to have an ADA bathroom, period. It's a change of use. And I think it's very cut and dry. So I'm not going to be for it. I'm not going to be against it, but you have to make that decision. I'll leave that to all of you. But just look at that floor plan and you tell me that's a bike shop compared to the bike shop downstairs. It's completely different. Thank you all for your time. And Carolyn, after 10 years, I'm glad we at least had one meeting for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have other members of the public here to speak? Please come forward. Seeing none at this time, do we have anybody online who would like to speak to this matter as well?
We do have one anonymous individual.
Hi, I'm so sorry. It didn't allow me to put on my name. I was part of the previous hearing. I'm going to reiterate the same thing I said last time. This isn't about this establishment. This isn't about them personally. This is just mainly about making sure that the city is holding everybody to the same accountability. So if this business is allowed to operate without meeting the same requirements that every one of us had to go through, I just have to ask that what was the point of requiring the rest of us to comply? why should businesses that follow the rules be placed at a disadvantage while others are allowed to move forward without doing the same? And again, we always want to wish everybody the best. It's just mainly about, are we going to reconcile with all the businesses that went through the right processes and paid all the money and did their time to invest in their businesses based on what the city told them, or are we going to just let certain people buy and others just have to pay the price?
Who was it?
Can you speak your name for the record, please?
My name is Sarah.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak to this project joining us online?
No, sir.
Okay, I'll go ahead and invite the appellant or the appellant's representative to speak to anything that was raised during the public comment period as they wish.
Sorry, just for clarification, you just asked me to respond to what was said.
Yes.
Yes, I don't need to respond to that, thank you.
Okay.
Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Come on up.
I apologize. I forgot about Steve. Sorry.
You know, my recommendation, Mr. Chair, is that you let the appellant use, I think, how much time did she have left for me?
5 minutes.
Okay. So you give her 5 minutes and let her say what she wants to say.
Absolutely, yeah, you do have additional time.
You're not
available, so-
limited on.
Okay, thank you.
You say whatever you want.
I think, again, I'm just gonna go back to this because it's so frustrating for me because you're hearing people that are chiming in on a situation that have no understanding of the process and everything we've been through. I've worked for 2 years with the city on this project. I've done everything they have asked. I've paid every fee, once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. I was directed to apply for a ancillary use permit. I did exactly what they said. We submitted all the paperwork. I did everything. There's so many things I really want to go through with y'all on those slides because there were so many things that were misrepresented in that speech a minute ago that are just not accurate with what happened. And I put all these details in emails. It's a lot to read, but I have documented this stuff. So I'm not just speaking out of one side of my mouth. I do want to go back to this letter from the state fire marshal. First of all, the state fire marshal is not even allowed to make a determination on this type of project. It's against the rules. Don't take my word for it, but you guys can go back and look that up yourself. The Chief Cooper sent a generic question to the state fire marshal to ask if a change of occupancy would trigger fire sprinklers in a bathroom. And the state replied, yes. They didn't review my project. They didn't look at the details. Nothing. That was a simple answer. I agree with that answer. We're not disputing that. We are disputing the change of occupancy. We're disputing that there was no change of occupancy. So that is what we're disputing. And we believe we have provided enough technical support at the state level from people that were retired fire marshals at the same level as the person that Chief Cooper went to ask that question. He didn't even actually get that from the state fire marshal. He got that from a board that you submit a question online to. So we've had a whole team review our package that are experts in this and that know what they're talking about. And their feedback to me was this is textbook misapplication of the code and textbook misunderstanding of the code. Textbook, it happens all over California. This is nothing unusual. Sometimes you get it wrong, but I believe my experts, they have the credentials, they know what they're talking about. I believe my architect who understands code, who understands the requirements, he knows what he's talking about. You know, I think that's the key thing to address there. So you can confuse people by just sharing a lot of generic information, but we can really narrow this down to the specifics of this project. If I have a minute, I'd happily go through any of those slides. It's really up to you guys if you want me to do that or if you want me just to read additional information off of here. I did give you a very specific chronology of events, but even more importantly, if you go through my packet, which all of you received this morning, so I'm surprised that you've really had time to digest it, because it took me a lot longer to put it together than that. The clarification of the issues before the board, I give you key questions to review. Did building code change? You know, there's very specific questions you need to ask yourself, and I provide answers from my experts and from my architect for you to weigh in on and actually reflect on. The technical evidence submitted in support of the appeal, we've provided that. I believe we've far exceeded the requirements to demonstrate that. There really is no gray area. There's muddy water right now. There's no gray area that the code supports our position. It's not about it being, we know it's a coffee bar. That's not understanding how the code works. That's not code-based. That's an emotion-based. Yes, of course it looks like a coffee bar. That has nothing to do with this building code occupancy. Absolutely nothing, and it's just gonna confuse people when that's what you focus on. We didn't ask. Also, I think what bothers me is we never asked for an exception. I've never gone to Chief Cooper and asked for an exception. It was the weirdest thing to see that he denied my exception. We asked him, I went to him because the city, Jermel would not get back to me, and I went to him asking him for help understanding and interpreting the code so that we could get it right. We were asking this from a collaborative standpoint, how to get this right. So from day one, it's always been about how do we do the right thing? How do we follow the rules? How do we comply with the code? That's been from day one, and we've documented every bit of it. We've applied for your business licenses. We've applied for done all of the permitting. Everything that's required of any business, we've done. Probably more so than most businesses. So I think that's getting lost in translation in this hearing, because when I first read the packet you guys were sent a week ago, I was like, why am I even going to this meeting? I look like a criminal. I look like I've just broke all the rules and all the laws, and I'm like some, renegade wanting to do things inaccurate. None of that's true. It's so skewed, and that's why I wanted to correct the narrative and provide you with facts and provide you with very specific data that you could go back and research. I'm happy to answer a zillion questions. I'm happy to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. I'm happy to sit one-on-one with all of you and go through this information. I appreciate what Steve said about somebody can make a 5-minute call. We can barely get 5 minutes in here. My experts are in another hearing sitting just like this. So would it be fair for me to ask him to step out and make a 5-minute call in here? So please keep that in mind. I don't think that was a very fair comment to make. I just really hope you guys go through this packet. I just can't express it enough. I'd like to walk you through it myself. I'd read every word to you. I'd go through it. I'd correct the narrative in those slides. But based on how this presentation board is set up, I'm just not given the time to do that. If you want to give me the time and you want to sit and listen, I'm happy to do it. If you think you've already got it all figured out, I will say, Steve made a comment about the city. My retired fire chiefs that train on code in California, that are on the boards for the state of California, that help write code and are the ones that are called in every time there's a discrepancy, every time someone disagrees about code, these are the guys they bring in to clarify. They're the most technical you can find. They're retired, so I'm looking at it going, these guys, if they say if they certify what the architect has said, it is now the city's job to go back and say why what they said is wrong. And they haven't been able to do that. They're going to give you a lot of other different code determinations, but they're not going to realistically be able to tell you why what we submitted is inaccurate and what code basis it goes against that. So this is code. I'm just going to keep going back to that because I worried about that going into this. And I said, it's super technical. The pictures Jermel showed, the ancillary use permit, we didn't have seating because when we opened, we didn't want to add seating. So we complied with the city. After Brandon came to me after we opened and said, we think you should reapply for a conditional use permit because it'll let you add seating, it'll let you sell pastries. I said, okay, well, he said, I think that's a good idea, you should do it. Here, I need another $3,500. Okay, we were already open. We applied. It unanimously got approved. Then we added seating. So it's very misleading to show y'all like somehow we just snuck by and did things. We did every bit of this by the book, to code, with the guidance and understanding of the board. There was one more that really stuck out to me because Jermel said he was unaware of that conditional use permit when we had the CUP. He's copied on those emails, and I still have copies of them. So he was very aware of that meeting. He knew what happened during that meeting. I applied for permits for this project. It was his job, it was the city's job to call out, why did they wait till I was open over a year to bring up sprinklers? I just won business of the year and I get a notice of violation over a year after being open. Oh, the building needs sprinklers. You ask about the project cost, the cost is gonna be $750,000 to $850,000. My landlord will not pay it, but I didn't want you guys to focus on that because this isn't about me asking for an exception. This isn't about me asking you to overlook what the state fire marshal said. I'm asking you to look at what 2 state fire marshals are saying. I'm asking you to look at what my architect, who has put his license on the line for me, is saying. That's what I'm asking for today. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm not asking for exceptions. I'm asking for you to apply the code as it is written by law. I will appeal this at a state level if I feel that that's not respected. So when you worry about what was really cool about the fire marshals I'm working with, this consultant, I said, should I lawyer up and bring a lawyer into this meeting? And they said, don't do it. They said, common sense will prevail. We think if you really give this packet to your group of people, they're going to digest this and understand, and it will make sense. Don't go in there being adversarial. So I've never lawyered up. I don't want to sue the city. But what has happened here isn't right. My project is unique. My project is different than others. The code supports our position. If you don't understand why it supports the position, ask me. Let's get our expert witnesses in here to help you understand it. I want you to feel confident that you're making a decision based on the law and based on the code. I don't want you to have a gray area, and you surely shouldn't be making a decision today if it's something you just feel or think. That's not how code is. It's very black and white. So we're asking for you to apply the code as it's written, and that's it.
Thank you. I've given you a bit of additional time, so.
Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think now might be a time for you to, if you recall the options, could we put the last slide?
Before we do that, can I bring back up the building official?
Oh, certainly. I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Yes.
yeah. Could Jermel please come back up? Just as I was reviewing your slides, which we didn't have the benefit of having before we sat down tonight, I'm noticing that the code sections cited, they all state 2020-22. Can you please clarify if that was what you meant or what?
Yes, that is what I meant. The permits that were approved under the plumbing and electrical permits were applied under the 2022 code.
So on the basis of your understanding of that project being applied for, that's the version of the code that you're applying to this specific case?
It could be either or. There's no significant changes in those sections that would make any material difference.
Okay. I was wondering if, for the benefit of the board, if it would be possible to pull up the council's approval of the building code amendments, which I believe would be 2026-001. It was approved, I think, at the February council meeting. I don't know, Shelby, if that's something that you have or I can provide to you.
While she pulls that up, I can just clarify that the amendments to the 2022 codes and the 2025 codes are identical in that section.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are you asking for the ordinance that was adopted
Yes.
in February?
Yes.
Just for clarification, Chair, are you specifically speaking to the amendment of 902.3, I believe it was?
Yeah, we heard a lot of code sections. It is section 903.2.
903.2.
And that's great, thank you. And if we could scroll down. We heard a lot of code references today, so I thought it would be best if we just reviewed the actual document. So for anybody in the room who's not aware, the city adopts the state building codes on a 3-year cycle. That 3-year cycle occurred in 2025, so that's the differentiation between the 2022 and the 2025 codes. Our council is tasked locally with adopting those codes, making them the official building code of the city of Carmel-by-the-Sea for all projects within our boundaries. And this document is basically the ordinance that was read into our local code as of February of this year. And if we could just scroll down to the specific amendments that we were discussing earlier. So the section on the California Fire Code, which is where we are. Scroll down a little bit further. There's a section in there about the building addresses, which was important for this year. So, you just went past it. So right there, 903.2, the section of the California Building Code is deleted in its entirety and replaced with the following. Let's scroll down a little bit more. That lists the section that Chief Building Official Lowry cited regarding approved automatic fire sprinklers shall be provided in all new buildings and structures constructed, moved into, or relocated within the jurisdiction. And then if we scroll down a little bit more past the exceptions, it goes on to list their all occupancies which are affected by that amendment. And if you just, sorry, if you've gone, go one page up. Thanks, Shelby, I appreciate it. You can see there that it lists, all occupancies are listed in this code except for group B. And I'm wondering if our fire marshal and or building official could weigh in on why that is or what applies in this case.
Well, if you scroll at the very top of what's showing right there, it says the following sections are amended by changing requirements to 500 square feet for fire sprinkler installation as follows. The complete section is not provided. So the same intent of the code remains. It's the 500 square foot rule. And group B in the actual fire code only addresses ambulatory care, I believe, and there's one other one that is not applicable to any other B occupancy.
Okay, so the specific amendment that we've described and been talking about for the Carmel amendments to the state code, they omit group B?
So my understanding is no, it does not omit group B. The threshold for sprinklers has been reduced in Carmel for all occupancies to 500 square feet. So that's where the threshold lies, and that lies also with our adjoining cities and jurisdictions that have adopted also the same code. And how we treat sprinklers across all of our jurisdictions is the same. Thank you.
Additionally, Chair, when this issue came up, it was based in the 2022 code cycle. So I believe that's the applicable code cycle. Although, any changes, the applicable rules, I believe, fall under the year of the cycle that it was assigned to.
Understood, yeah. Okay, thank you.
So in our order for the meeting, this would be the chance for the staff to provide a response, if they have one, to what was said by the appellant during their comments.
I don't have a lot to say. I think my presentation stands by itself. I will address the, once again, I guess repeat the section from 508 that addresses ancillary use. Again, that is a maximum of 10% of the floor area of the level that it is on. So I think even from the architect's drawing, I don't think it has to be pulled up, but it was pointed out, the section all in green was approximately 700 square feet, well beyond the 10% of change to the area, and I stand by the determination it was a change of occupancy.
And then I'll just add, typically ancillary use permits, when someone files an ancillary use permit and it's ancillary to their main business, we don't look at those because typically it's ancillary to a main business. It's not changing occupancy. I strongly feel as the fire marshal and the authority having jurisdiction on the California Fire Code that it is a change of occupancy, thus requiring sprinklers. If you look at even here in this room today, there's been a change of occupancy. Obviously, this was not what this room was intended for. Even the city had to comply with the sprinklers that were installed above our heads, protecting us inside this building. Thank you.
Do you want me to kind of set the stage here for what comes next, or?
Sure, I think we've closed the public comment. We've heard from the appellant. We've heard from city staff. Maybe you could just provide a little guidance on the rules of order.
Yeah, I was going to suggest we pull up the options slide so you could take a look at those. And then before you begin your discussion about which of these options or some other option, if you choose, my recommendation is that you call Ms. Blevins back and ask her if she is requesting an opportunity to present further documents, and if so, what those are, so that we'll know when we get them. And or if she wishes to present additional testimony from others. And in that regard, as I said in my prior comments, the consultants that you mentioned, if for some reason they are unable to appear in person because of travel time or what it might be, they can appear remotely, and that's fairly common to allow consultants to do that given the distance to travel. But having said that, my recommendation is call Ms. Blevins back, see if she's got any more documents that she's anticipating to present or wishes to present, and whether or not there's any individuals that you would like to have either remotely or in person, so that you can then consider that in whether you're going to choose option one or not, in which case you've got other options. But we should at least, I think, hear from her on what it is that she's got in mind.
Yeah, I agree with that. If the appellant would come forward and let us know if she's asking for the opportunity to present additional information at a future hearing, or to have our deliberations begin.
Yes, I would definitely like to have two expert witnesses here to actually explain why some of the slides that Chief Cooper and Jermel shared with you are inaccurate. And I believe I should be given the opportunity to have an expert explain that. The slides that the city submits that they put up here for you guys to read, we see as soon as we come into this hearing. So that's the first time we can see them as well. It's not information that I was able to provide you with counter responses to prior to this hearing. So I would 100% like to consult with them. I assure you that had they been able to call in today, it wasn't a matter of traveling. I've offered to pay their travel time. I'm paying a small fortune for this. I I'm happy to have them come to this hearing, whether it's call-in or whether it is in person. They were just unable to do so today. And they have a team of about 15 of them. So it's just, this was so short notice. I didn't even understand, and if I wouldn't have pulled the Freedom of Information Act to get the information prior to this meeting, I wouldn't have even known what we were going to be going through up until this past Friday. So this past Friday, I get a packet that basically, you know, gives me information about what you guys are doing. It just wasn't enough time to address that. And then again, I'm happy to go through line by line and talk about code and answer things. There's a lot of information I know and have that I'm happy to go through, but I respect your time, and that's going to have to be your decision.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, could I ask a question? Did you say you have two?
Oh, can my architect step up real quick?
Well, no. The purpose of the inquiry to you was, you're the appellant, and you've, as we talked about in the beginning of the hearing, wanted to have more time to present additional evidence. So that's what we're trying to focus on now and what that is. So I've heard you say there's two consultants that you would like to have either testify remotely or in person.
Correct.
At a future hearing.
Correct.
Okay.
And my architect needs a chance to have a rebuttal. When someone stands up here in front of y'all and says something to code that is completely opposite of what he knows as a licensed architect is accurate, he should have an opportunity to rebuttal that.
Are you talking about the architect that's here?
Correct.
Okay. The architect that's here has already had that opportunity, so
Yeah, but he doesn't get a chance to rebuttal things that have just been brought up.
I leave it to you.
That we are sitting there talking about that we know were inaccurate. So that's a delicate situation.
All right, unless the board has more questions for Ms. Blevins, I think you can now commence your deliberations and decide which of these options or some other option you wish to pursue. And before I think we're finished with Ms. Blevins.
Yes,
Me?
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And there was one question that's brought up about Gail Lehman and some matter that she voted on previously, and that there was a question raised as to whether there's a conflict of interest. My answer is that there is no conflict of interest, and she may continue to participate in this proceeding. So these are your options. And
Okay, well, we'll bring it back to the board. If we wish to deliberate on the topic at hand or basically consider these options relative to coming back again for additional information, or asking additional questions of the folks that we've got assembled here in the room.
On my part, I thought we already made that decision that if they wanted to, by agreeing to option 3, that we could reschedule another hearing, but not to rehear everything we've already heard today, because we've already got that on record and on written record. But if there are apparently 2 consultants that you wanted to bring, Ms. Blevins, you know, that's fine with me. And I do think, additionally, if we decide to, if we're all in agreement on this, or a majority, that it would be advantageous to schedule this as soon as possible so that the information remains as fresh as we are today.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
Thank you.
I guess, are we in deliberation now, or?
Yeah, we're basically just considering what.
I guess I'd like to hear what her architect and consultant have to say before I can feel that she's had a full hearing, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Bear with me, I have a few things. Full disclosure, Ms. Blevins, I have been a patron of both your stores since they opened, and they're amazing. So they're great additions to Carmel. So thank you not only for your work in bringing those businesses to our community, but also for all your work, time, energy, finances. The list goes on and on. Thank you. You brought up a lot of points, and there is a lot of information for us to digest. So I'm in full agreement with you there. The one question that has been repeated by both sides of this argument is simply what we're here for, and was there a change of occupancy? And I'll come back to that. I did want to address the Board of Appeals expertise that you brought up. And I am gonna rely on my, as he stated, as I met him first thing today, my wingman over here for procedure, but the way I understand it, the Board of Appeals is required to have 2 licensed experts on the board, as well as 2 advocates for ADA compliance, and then 1 additional member. We are down 1 member, but we do have a quorum. The experts in the room I can't speak for other than myself, but just to give you a quick background, I am a professional fire officer, a captain with an agency in the East Bay. I am licensed, although I'm on the suppression side, not on the prevention side, but I am a state certified fire officer for the state of California and for the San Ramon Valley Fire Protection District. So there is expertise there. I want to assure you that as that you're coming to the board. You're not just going, although I'm a brand new member, I was sworn in on June 1st, and since then, I have been studying and doing my homework and doing everything I possibly can do for this community, for this seat, because it's not fair to our community, it's not fair to you, if that wasn't there. So I completely agree with you. You deserve to have a board that's, by no means, we're volunteers, by no means we're experts, but you deserve to have a fair board that knows what they're talking about, or at least can educate themselves as best as possible. So I just wanted to give you that assurance from my side of things. The fact of the matter remains, from what I see and so far what I've stated, and I think the plan is going to be to postpone this so we can hear more data. But everything that I am seeing as of right now, and everything that I've educated myself on, is that there is a change of occupancy. There has been a change of occupancy. There's 27 seats now in that establishment. It is not a coffee bar in the back room of a bike store. It is a coffee house on the busiest street, arguably, in our city. Yesterday, I was at the coffee house, and there were 59 people inside, backing up through the only egress to the business, out into the street. If the unthinkable happened, and there was an emergency, I am quite confident in my experience that people would not have been able to get out of that business. The intent of all building codes and their enforcement are for the most important responsibility of our citizens and visitors, just like you stated, Ms. Blevins, and that is for life safety. And as a professional fire captain, this is my job, and that's the only reason I have a job. So we have to look at that. What's the intent of the code? It is not to put you out of business. It is not to induce some horrible hardship on you, which it has been over the last 2 years. And I can't say anything other than I apologize for that. But it is to take care of our citizens and the people who visit our community. This is not a small coffee bar. This is a major coffee house doing exceptional business of the year. Again, I can't thank you enough. It's a great store. But this is a major coffee house and eatery. Without a sprinkler system, the questions that I raise every time I go into a building, just like Chief mentioned, you look up and you see fire sprinklers. A lot of people don't look for those things. I do. Without that sprinkler system, without that prevention system, are we going to initiate or force you to, Ms. Blevins, to initiate a fire watch anytime that you're there at the business, have certified people making sure that there's no fire starting, or have security personnel essentially effectively be bouncers at the door so that you don't go over the 47 people that's intended for that space. I don't know that that's a viable option either. So that's kind of where I stand on sprinklers and fire prevention. It is the state fire code, and it's a bummer, but I remember when homes were first forced to put smoke detectors and then put carbon monoxide alarms in their homes. And it was the same thing. Everyone threw up their arms and said, you can't come into my home and tell me to put smoke detectors and carbon monoxide alarms into my home. But they save lives, and so do sprinklers. And I'm not just talking about the citizens, but I am also talking about the men and women who come to protect the citizens. It's hard to put, we talked about prices, but it is hard to put a price tag on a citizen's life or a firefighter's life.
Chair, I need to interject a comment here.
Yep.
My recommendation to you is that you make the threshold decision on whether or not you're going to consider a further hearing with additional consultants. And then you should make that decision first. And then if the decision is made that you're going to allow further documents and or witnesses, that any final decision that would be made by the board would need to wait until after that additional information has been presented.
Perfect.
So that's my advice, is make a decision now on whether you're going to have a further hearing. If you are, then I would defer, any further, discussion regarding the merits until you've had an opportunity to hear from those consultants.
Thank you. Yeah, since Board Member Smith is new, as my other fellow board members have, it sounds like you're close to wrapping up, but if
I am, yeah, that was it. The sprinkler issue was done, and the only other thing I did measure the distance from the park bathroom to the business, and it was 400 feet on the nose.
So I need to ask you a question. So I heard you say in the beginning, from what you see now, and then you explain. So I just want to confirm that if the board should decide to approve a further hearing with further consultants, that you would consider that testimony as well before you would reach a final conclusion.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I think that's...
Right, so that's my recommendation. Yeah. Make a decision. Are you going to have a further hearing or not? And then if you're going to, then schedule a date. If you're not going to, then you can look at the other two options.
Yeah, I'd just like to affirm what I've heard from my fellow board members, which is that I think we all understand that it's an important decision. There's a lot of information to review. We've had an opportunity to hear from a lot of folks who wanted to speak on this tonight, but it sounds like there are a couple of other people that might be able to help us give some insight to this topic, and as well as the fact that this has extended out quite a bit of time. So I agree with Board Member Lehman that we should really try to accelerate a return if we agree to do that to the soonest possible date.
Mm-hmm. If possible, I'd like to put a time clock on it, and I think we should meet within a 14-day period.
That might be a bit of a challenge,
Yeah.
given
For
that
noticing
there's
requirements.
many people. I can tell you that my experience is that 30 days would be probably a more reasonable time period, given how many people would need to be present. I mean, the consultants, the parties, and all that. So my advice is, if you're going to go with option one, is that you set a time of 30 days, or plus or minus, but 14 might be a little short.
Mm-hmm. So do we need to make a motion to extend for 30 days? So.
If you can say something, you need to speak on the mic.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, I'll move that we extend for the appellant to provide additional documents and or witness to the board.
So that's option one.
That is option one.
And are you going to add and to set the hearing within 30 days?
I'm not as concerned about within the 30 days. I mean, it is like a beeping smoke detector in my opinion right now, so I'll add 30 days, yes.
And that the consultants that Ms. Blevins had identified would be those that would be presented either in person or remotely at that hearing.
So moved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Motion is made to continue the hearing to a future date within the next 30 days, and as well as for the appellant to submit the additional documentation to this board and the city 5 calendar days before that hearing. Can we have a roll call, please?
Board Member Bjorklund?
I agree.
Great.
Yeah.
Board Member Lehman?
Yes.
Board Member Smith?
Yes.
And Chair Jeselnick?
Yes.
Motion passes.
You're adjourned.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you all.